Hi again, Cathy McLeish here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about questions you might ask yourself if you think a loved one has a problem, a coworker has a problem, or even yourself has a problem with alcoholism. And I'm doing a series on alcoholism. I believe that's what it's called. It'll say alcoholism, and it'll say another prompt that will be maybe what the topic of that specific video is. Please join me and follow. Try and, maybe soak up some of the information so that you know a little bit more about a subject people aren't talking about. And the idea is to, kind of spread some information. You don't have to agree with me on everything, for sure. I am not an expert. I just have the experience of being sober, being in groups of sober people, helping people get sober, having people help me for over 30 years. And so I haven't had a drink since I was 27. As a recovering alcoholic, what that means to me is total abstinence. I didn't have a drink when it was our 25th anniversary. I didn't have a drink at my daughter's wedding. I just didn't have a drink since I first got sober at 27. So how do you do that? First, you have to see the truth about your situation. And you don't really have to see the total truth. You just have to see enough truth to say, I think I need some help. I think I need some help. So a lot of times we'll pull out a questionnaire. We'll pull out these questionnaires that therapists ask, doctors ask, and they want us to answer the truth. And the problem with that is alcoholics have a really hard time seeing the truth about their drinking. Denial is one of the biggest symptoms of the disease of alcoholism. And the catch to that is you are really the only person that can say you're alcoholic. A lot of people can say it. A lot of people might know it. A lot of people can be talking about it behind your back. But you have to say it yourself in order to take that next step, which is getting help. If you don't, if I don't have a problem, I'm not going to the dentist. If I don't have a problem with lawn grass, I'm not calling anybody to mow it. It's like I have to see the problem before I can get into the solution. So you ask yourself these questions, and on one of my last videos, I asked the question, could you stop if you wanted to? And as an alcoholic, the typical answer is, I just don't want to. Of course I could. Of course I could. Anybody could stop. I could put down that drink. I just don't want to. And then, I kind of asked, well, what if somebody that cared about you asked? Let's just elaborate a little bit more. What if you had a health issue? Could you stop? If the doctor said, oh my gosh, you got some serious things going on. How much do you drink? Could you stop drinking? That would help. Could I stop? If my finances were in the tank and I was spending, $40 a night at a bar, could I stop? Could I stop if I needed to pay my rent and I was spending money that I did not have on alcohol? Could I stop? Could I stop if I got a DUI? If I actually had some kind of a legal consequence and I needed to stop? Could I stop if I came home one night from drinking? I didn't drive, my wife drove, but I lost my balance and I fell on the stairs and twisted my ankle, and now I'm making up some excuse to tell people what happened to my ankle. Could I stop? Could I stop if there was a consequence outside of my drinking that pointed back to my drinking? That I asked myself, if I wasn't drinking, would I have a problem with this? If I wasn't drinking, would I have a problem with finances? Would I have a problem with my neighbor? Would I be fighting with my teenage son as much as I do? If I wasn't drinking, would I go to more events that my wife is asking me to go to? If I wasn't drinking, would I have so much problem with my husband's family? Because they're all sober and they're so boring. So if I can ask myself these questions outside of my drinking, would these problems still exist? Would I be afraid of a debt collector? Would I be afraid of the mail? Would I be afraid to drive because I'm not sure if 2 drinks did it, if 2 drinks was too much? Would I be afraid if I saw a cop in my rearview mirror? So these are some of the questions, and I don't mean to smile. I just was smiling at that one because I always was so afraid when there was a cop in my rearview mirror. And I remember when I got sober, this is what is just such a sign that I had a problem long before I saw I had a problem, is I was still scared to death of cops after I got sober. And it was kind of like, Cathy, you're sober. It's okay. Calm down. So that is a little bit bigger of a look at that question about, could I stop? Another thing I want to talk about in this video is, how much do I think about drinking? Because you know what? Sober people don't really think that much about drinking. I remember I was 6 months sober, and I was at a birthday party for, a young child. And I was proud. I was so proud that I had 6 months sobriety. That is like unbelievable to an alcoholic, that they go 6 months without a drink when they wanted to drink every day, all day long, or they wanted to binge every weekend or whatever. So anyways, I'm at this birthday party, and I tell this close friend that I have 6 months sobriety. And she opens up her refrigerator, and she has this case of beer. She has a 6-pack of beer, and it has like 4 different kinds of beer in it. Like, they had this beer at this party and 1 was left over in there. They had this beer at this party and 2 were left over and they're in there. And so they never finished beer from any occasion. She takes a look at that 6-pack of 4 different kinds of beer, and she says, I can't think of the last time that I had a drink. And it was like very, very unrewarding that I told her that I had 6 months, and that was her reaction. But it really shined the light on the fact that people that don't drink don't think about drinking. They don't think about, when is the next event? When can they get away from these people so that they can drink? Where is the money? Where do they have to get the money for this next binge? How are they going to do it? How are they going to make the time? How are they going to evade the questions that other people are going to ask? How long is it going to be until they get another drink? And is there enough to drink when they go to get that drink? Is that occasion a wet occasion or a dry occasion? Is that wedding going to have alcohol? And if they are, what kind of alcohol? And am I going to have to pay for it? Because that could be a problem. So if we're alcoholic, thinking about drinking is always on our mind. And sometimes an event will happen, and this is kind of like, think about this. An event will happen where maybe something happens to your child, or maybe your parents are aging and they're, so much in your life, and they weren't before because they didn't need your help 24/7. And you think, what was I doing with my life before this? This is taking up so much of my life, worrying about my child, worrying about my parents, being who I need to be for these different, events that are going on. And you think about, what was I thinking about? What was I doing? How was I spending my time? That is what happens when you put down a drink. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, it was taking up all my time, all my thoughts, all my effort, all my work, all my money, all my stress, anxiety. It was taking away from all of my relationships. You really don't realize how full-blown alcoholism is just this big dark cloud over your life that is eating up your life while you're trying to maintain this habit day in and day out so that you can drink. You don't know until you get on the other side. And so these questions that we're supposed to be asking ourselves, can we even really answer the questions? Sometimes I think we can, to an honest level. Like, how much do I think about drinking? If I really thought, well, that's kind of silly, but if I really was honest about how much I think about drinking, if anybody knew, they would have known I was a full-blown alcoholic, because it was always on my mind. So we're just trying to raise an awareness for the person that is struggling, for the people in the lives of the people that are struggling, not so that anybody control anybody else because we can't. We can only worry about ourselves. And people will ask, what can I do if I've tried to help that person? The best thing that we can do, and it's kind of disappointing, is work on ourselves. There are programs for people that are totally exposed to the craziness of alcoholism, and it's making them sick. If you don't like the word sick, it's making you anxious. It's making you stressed. It's worrying you. It's weighing on your heart. It is causing you a lot of chaos and drama in your life. If that is the case, we are making you sick right along with us, and you need a recourse of action. You need a group of people that can say, I understand, I know where you're at. It's going to get better. You're going to get better, whether it changes or not. And that is the answer for both of us. We need to work on ourselves if we have the problem. If we're not ready to work on ourselves, then anybody that loves us needs to find an answer to their own problem, because we are their problem, but their solution is within themselves. And there is a lot of peace in finding that solution for yourself. So, Cathy McLeish, please keep posted, keep, subscribe, follow, spread whatever you can out there so that we can be part of the solution instead of part of the problem, and maybe alleviate a little bit of the pain that comes with the disease of alcoholism. Thanks.